From the National Newsroom of the Canadian Press, I'm Jason White. China's embassy in Ottawa confirms Beijing executed Canadian citizens earlier this year.
It's not clear how many Canadians were executed, though Beijing says the cases were based on solid evidence and a zero-tolerance approach to drug crime. Global Affairs Canada says the cases don't include Robert Schellenberg of BC, who was sentenced to death for drug smuggling in 2019. The department says it repeatedly called for clemency and has reached out to the family of those who were executed. Ottawa says it strongly condemns China's use of the death penalty, but Beijing says that Canada should not interfere in judicial sovereignty. Dylan Robertson, The Canadian Press, Ottawa.
U.S. President Trump says he would have an easier time if Canada keeps a Liberal Prime Minister. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says that's no surprise.
It's clear that President Trump wants the Liberals in power because they will keep this country weak.
During a Fox News interview last night, Trump said it doesn't matter who wins the next federal election because his end goal is to not have a big deficit with Canada. Federal Conservatives and New Democrats won't say how or if they're vetting their candidates' claims to Indigenous identity. Both of those parties went after a Liberal MP last year over his shifting statements about his background. The Liberal Party did not immediately respond to a request for comment on its process. The federal government is capping bank fees for bouncing a check or not being able to cover other pre-authorized charges. NSF or non-sufficient fund fees will be limited to no more than $10, and only one fee can be charged over a 2-day period. Hudson's Bay signature blankets and other striped merchandise are flying off the shelves as the storied retailer seeks permission to liquidate. Aris Zakynthos was able to grab a striped comforter.
It is the end of an era. Hudson's Bay Company, 350, 60 years ago. You'll never be able to buy anything from the Hudson's Bay. We wanted a memento of it.
He says he kept getting stopped on his way to the cash by people hoping he'd change his mind so they could buy it instead. Hudson's Bay Company is currently in court hoping to liquidate all 80 of its stores. Tech experts say some new data shows the balance of power in the personal computer market appears to be shifting.
Year-over-year sales of Apple computers grew 25% in the fourth quarter of 2024, according to new data from Canalys. That comes as the two biggest players in the space, Dell and HP, saw single-digit sales declines in Q4. Microsoft recently announced it's ending support for the Windows 10 operating system this October, and that means it's upgrade time for a lot of people and businesses. That's why analysts say Apple is seeing the spike in sales. Mike Dubusky, ABC News.
This is the Canadian Press. In sports, the Toronto Maple Leafs end a 4-game homestand tonight when they host Colorado. The Leafs are looking for a split after opening with losses to Florida and Ottawa before rebounding with a win against Calgary on Monday. The only other NHL game on the schedule tonight has Minnesota hosting Seattle. The success of the Four Nations face-off has the NHL rethinking options for the 2026 All-Star Weekend ahead of the Olympics. All-Star Weekend was one of several topics discussed as the general manager's annual spring meeting wrapped up in Florida. Canadian teen Victoria Mboko continued her impressive start to the 2025 tennis season. She scored a 3-set win over Colombia's Camila Osorio in first-round action at the Miami Open. Canadian freestyle skiing star Mikhail Kingsbury saw his Moguls World Championship winning streak come to an end today in Switzerland. Kingsbury finished second in the final. Fellow Canadian Maya Schwinghammer took third in the women's event. From the Canadian Press, I'm Jason White.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. For more of today's top stories, visit thecanadianpressnews.ca.